John Hughes is considered a master of 80s teens movies. Life magazine calls him the man who had redefined adolescence in American film. From 16 Candles to Pretty in Pink, Hughes created the teen decade of 80s movies. But few people know that all of his movies take place in the same universe. That's right, the nerds in Weird Science and the kids in The Breakfast Club all went to the same high school, and Kevin McAllister lived on the same street as the Griswolds. But I'm going to focus only on one movie in this decade-defining cinematic universe, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the movie about a high school student named Ferris who ditches school to give his best friend Cameron the best day of his life while traveling throughout Chicago and avoiding being caught. This movie is a great modern example of regionalism. Hughes had once said, "Chicago is what I am. A lot of Ferris is sort of my love letter to the city. I really wanted to capture as much of Chicago as I could, not just the architecture and the landscape, but the spirit." This is why Hughes created his own fictional town called Shermer, Illinois. The city was built as an enhanced and romanticized version of the suburban life. This town is the center of Ferris Bueller's world, but throughout the movie, he and his friends travel throughout Chicago. Hughes specifically highlights each place they visit as if he is giving the audience a tour of his home on MTV Cribs. Ferris drags his friend Cameron down Lakeshore Drive to the Willis Tower, or the Sears Tower, which at the time was the tallest building in the world. They go to the Chicago Board of Trade, the Art Institute of Chicago, and to a baseball game at Wrigley Field. Ferris ends the day by dancing on a float in the Von Steuben Day Parade. The extent of which the Windy City is accentuated in Ferris Bueller's Day Off alone makes it evident that this film is an example of regionalism, but the movie also uses many other aspects of regionalist works. The local dialect of 80s teen references is translated for the audience by a local narrator of the region. In this case, it's Ferris. Throughout the movie, he breaks the fourth wall to give us insight on his own thoughts and the personalities of other characters. This is how the narrator translates the language of the region to modern audiences. Without this aside, the audience would not know that the reason Ferris is taking Cameron on this trip is because Cameron has a bad home life and needed a break. We also learned that they're soon going off to different colleges and are afraid they won't see each other again. These characters give the audience a perspective of life as a high school senior in the 80s and the feelings they went through. Because the only thing that can lead a person to steal and then destroy a 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California is sadness and hormones. After watching this crazy senior skip day unfold, anyone can see it is a story about two friends who wanted to have fun together, experiencing the beauty of their hometown and their lives in general.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Ferris takes his friends through the idealized Shermer, Illinois and beyond as Chicago gets free advertising for tourism. Producer of the film, Tom Jacobson, said in an interview that Chicago seemed like a character in the movie. This interesting phrasing is often used to describe the settings in regionalist works. For example, an article on regionalism in works by Mark Twain states that the Mississippi River in The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, quote, becomes a major character in the novel. So after doing what was probably way too much work for this extra credit assignment, I can officially say that Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a modern example of regionalism. It was really cool to see how much detail John Hughes put into this film about the area he grew up in, and I had no idea that he created his own town to place his movies in so he felt more at home and could better connect with his story. It just seems really great that everything he did in this expanded cinematic universe was for his hometown. Oh, and by the way, he had end of credits scenes before Marvel made them cool.